All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with Erika Biddix. Erika, welcome. So awesome to have you with the show today.
Same. The title of your podcast jumped out to me immediately with the
It
word
did, huh?
relationship in there. It did. Yeah.
I
I
love
thought this is something. I said this is something I gotta look into.
Well, I'll tell you, a few weeks ago, I was talking with a good friend of mine who he too runs a podcast. He hosts a podcast. And he was telling me about the Quoted platform.
Yeah.
And I had never heard of him. I had never used him. But I was, after he was telling me, he said, man, Kevin, I have got some amazing guests from that platform. And so I went and checked it out and with my assistant, and my assistant was like, well, I'll just put a listing on it real quick and we'll just see what happens. And so within 48 hours, within 2 days, I had 41 responses to that.
That's
And
not bad. Not bad for 5 minutes of putting something up on
no,
there.
no. And, there were like six or seven of them that weren't a right fit. We just politely declined those. But all the others, I've been having follow-up conversations with and getting to know. And you were one of those. And, you and I, we already got to have a conversation, get to know each other a little bit. And from there, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm definitely sold on doing a podcast interview with you. And so, I just, what an awesome way that was to meet someone. And like I said, we're probably 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks into this experience right now, and I have met some absolutely phenomenal entrepreneurs,
Oh, that's
and
fantastic.
and
That's awesome.
so yeah, and so and from our previous conversation, Erica, I have been really looking forward to doing this interview with you and stuff, and so uh, I have the benefit, of like, that the listeners don't yet have. They're going to get to know you after our conversation today, but I've already, I've want to say I've already pre-vetted, and Erica, this is going to be good.
No
So,
pressure. No pressure.
and,
Just kidding.
so what I want to do is I just want to start. I want to turn over to you so we can start by setting a little bit of context here.
Yeah.
And I want you to be able to share, and talk about, what you do, who you serve, what inspires you most about the work you guys are doing, the impact you're making, and also give us some of the backstory too, because I want to,
Yeah.
every entrepreneur has an amazing backstory, and I would love to hear yours.
Yeah, it actually, when you asked that question, it made me think I've got three kiddos. Two are high schoolers and one will be soon enough. But my daughter, about 5 years ago, she called me at work and I was like, "Are you okay?" And she said, "Yeah, I just am really wondering what my purpose in life is." So I was like, "Okay, that is not a question for the phone, like
Yeah.
the phone." But I said, "Well, let's talk about this. You're only 10 years old." And she said a few more things. And I said, "Honey, I was 42 years old before I understood what my purpose in life was." And that really is what this experience is for me, is taking the history and the experience and my capabilities and my abilities and putting those into practice in a way that can make a wide impact. That is what lights me up about what it is that I do. So, all of that said, I am by trade a corporate meeting and event planner. I had a couple jobs right out of college, but made my way there pretty quickly and spent 22-ish years in the industry, including starting my own agency for the last 6 years of that. Agency life was great, except that all of the challenges of being a meeting planner were still there, just with the added bonus of being a business owner as well. And I never really thought I was going to do anything else. It was always, I was going to be a meeting planner. That was a perfect fit for me. I was really good at it. It stressed me out tremendously, and I didn't particularly enjoy it by the last part of it. But you're taught growing up that you pick a job and you stay in a job. That's kind of how everything is set up around you. But simultaneously, my husband had an opportunity to take a job. We had to move. And I was in a city where I didn't know anybody. I had been here for several years and still didn't know anybody because I was working out of my house all the time. So I went to a convention for meeting professionals, and a woman on the stage, her name is Jade Simmons, said these words to all the thousands of people, but really she was like just looking at me and said it, even though she didn't know it. She said, "Your purpose is what happens to others when you do what you do." And my world stopped at that moment. And I thought, I am going to open a co-working space for female entrepreneurs. It was like a movie. It just, the whole thing, I had been trying to figure out how to be in community. I'd been kind of looking for an office. And when she said that, I thought, well, if I'm looking for that, surely so many other women are looking for that as well. Because what happens when you leave corporate America and you go into entrepreneurship is you're oftentimes by yourself. So you've left behind things that you didn't quit because of. You didn't quit because you had people to hang out with at lunch or somebody to read your email over your shoulder, right? Those are the things you're leaving behind unintentionally, community,
Yeah.
really. So I opened the business, the co-working business. And at this point now I'm running two businesses, a meeting agency and a co-working business. And I opened it in December of 2019,
Okay.
which was terrible timing. If I could have seen into the future, I would have known better.
Yeah.
So I now have a business that my intent had been not to make money from it, just to have a place to have my own office and support some other people. And the world has shut down and I cannot now make any money with that. And also the entire meetings and events industry, gone. So two businesses overnight. And I thought, wow, that was not good. So we had some time, a couple months in between there that were really difficult and really hard and a lot of big decisions to be made. But during that time, we realized that we weren't going to just be a community for the women who had already joined us, that we had a platform and a community that we could invite others into. So we spent that time really talking about female entrepreneurs in Knoxville who were functioning, whose businesses were up and running in some capacity, and that people could purchase and help keep their business, purchase from and help keep their businesses open. And that was really the first time as an entrepreneur that I saw the power of community and relationships, right? So I just really, really love Hard Knocks Pizza. If you ever come to Knoxville, you have to eat it. I had it for dinner last night. I'm gonna have it again tonight. And they were one of the very first that started doing pickup on, sidewalk pickup, which
Okay.
back then that was like brand new to, right? Now it's normal, but and so to be able to talk about Hard Knocks Pizza and get people to know that they were doing that and they could purchase from that, it just kind of showed the power of community, really, what you can do
Yeah.
when you're all working together. So coming out of the pandemic, which is in quote marks, but coming out of it and coming back in to our co-working space, it was all of the sudden it was way more than just those 12 women. It was everybody else that we could impact and support. And so in the ensuing years, we have undergone a name change. We opened multiple locations, although in November of this past year, we condensed down into a singular location. So we have in-person co-working here in Knoxville, but we also, over that time period, opened a virtual community for female entrepreneurs. So we took what we learned with our in-person co-working and we made a virtual version of it. So this is a place where women can come and virtually co-work together. We do master classes, we do workshops, we do masterminds, and it's phenomenal. And I love watching these women because they're not in there networking, they're in there building relationships. They're in there supporting each other through the hard stuff, cheering each other on through the good stuff, connecting each other with who they need to be connected with. It's like the best thing I've ever had a part in doing. And it's one of those things where it just keeps changing for what's needed.
Yeah.
And one of those was that I closed the meetings and events business down at the end of 23 and retired from that. So then I was only running one company, but then we recognized that there was a real desire from folks for what is oftentimes considered coaching. I don't like that word particularly. So I consider myself a strategist. So we did open a second business. It's under my name. And if folks are looking for a where to work or a where to be in community, that's ought. If they're looking for a who can support them one-on-one with their business and their business strategy, that's the Erika Biddix brand. So we work with female entrepreneurs worldwide at any stage of their business, really.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what is and you can decide which you want to draw from, whether it's your your strategizing side or whether it's the other side of the business, the other business. But what's an example of a result that you have just helped someone under your umbrella get that you are just incredibly proud of, Erica?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to use names.
Yeah, that's
Be
totally
careful
fine.
about that. But the woman who spoke those words from the stage, again, her name's Jade. She is phenomenal. And I reached out to her, which, as she will tell you, many, many people do after they hear her speak. But there was something about my story, something about the business that I was opening as a result of that, that really spoke to her. And she has very kindly and warmly stepped into my life as a friend, as a mentor, and has really supported us in all sorts of ways. She's just phenomenal. Um, and there's another woman who a little bit earlier had kind of started the seed of like, maybe I need to think of things. Her name's Judy Holler. She's also a keynote speaker. And both of those women at different times have had really big impacts in my life, in their roles as keynote speakers, and then have turned into personal friends and mentors at the same time. They knew of each other, but they didn't know each other.
Okay.
And having the opportunity to introduce them and then watch them take that relationship and turn it into so many different things. Some of the things I can't talk about because they haven't
Sure.
happened yet, but they are working, they are have some things happening. And I actually hosted a conference. We put on our own conference for Aught. And we had both of those women. It was the first time they shared a stage. And not only did they share the stage, but they're both musicians and they worked
Wow.
together to create a piece that was presented specifically for the conference. And there's not a monetary end to that story, but what it is proof in the pudding, if you will,
Yeah.
that collaboration over competition is the way to do things.
Yeah.
Because theoretically, they're competitors, they're in the same space, they're, speaking for the same audiences, etc. And instead of seeing each other as competitors, they both wanted to know each other so they could collaborate together. And watching that collaboration, I literally am like full body goosebumps
Yeah.
right now. Um,
I totally get that. I
yeah,
totally get.
it's just been amazing. And now I see them doing things together that I have nothing to do with. And I'm just like, oh, I got to introduce,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got to introduce them. Yeah.
I that hits home with me so much because I think because I have been making introductions for entrepreneurs for years. I mean, gosh, going back almost 30 years. And the first really big introduction I made for these two guys, it was actually these two guys, Perry and Brian. That was 13 years ago, actually 14 years ago now.
Yeah.
And those two guys have gone on to do so much amazing stuff together and impact so many lives. And they've done big live events together, and yeah, they've created a lot of revenue too. But see,
Yeah.
the revenue, that is the byproduct of impact.
Yep.
And the reason the revenue gets created is because the impact was created.
Yep.
And when we the bigger impact we make, the more revenue that gets created and stuff. That's
Mhm.
just the natural and organic byproduct. But it was those two guys watching what they did 14 years ago that first got me thinking, wouldn't it be cool if I could have a business where I just got to do that all the time?
Yeah.
And and today that's exactly what I do. And really, this started back in 2000. It took some time for that thought and that seed to germinate and stuff, but 2017 was when I held the very first ever event right here at my home, right on the other side of this wall in my living room. And 15 entrepreneurs had flown in from around the country to attend a 2.5 day event here at my home.
Yeah.
And the whole purpose was I just wanted to get those entrepreneurs. They didn't know each other. I wanted to get them all together under my umbrella and introduce them and set the context for them because I just knew great things would come from that. and that launched it. And I've been doing that. That's been my full-time gig ever since. And I'll be 60 years old next month, and I feel at 60 years old, I'm just now really starting to figure stuff out, Eric.
Isn't that funny?
I'm just catching my flow.
For a while, you think you're never going to figure it out, and then
For
you're like, "Oh,
sure.
I've got this." And then years down the road, you're like, "Oh, I did not have
Yeah.
that."
Yeah. Totally. Totally. It's
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about the community is that I would say mostly speaking, the women, we call it the community, our virtual community, TAC, I guess I could call it that, but they, for the most part, didn't know each other when they came in, right? But now they know when one of the members' daughters is having emergency surgery. That just happened last week. She was supposed to be on a stage speaking in New York, I think. And she said, "What? I can't go speak, but what am I going to do?" And we were able to very quickly say, "Oh, what about so and so who's a videographer? Can you get her in there?" And the videographer showed up, made a studio in her house, helped her film her entire thing. And that all happened before her daughter even went into surgery. And she was able to then still show up where she needed to show up. Um, and that's the power of community. I always say the power of community creates magic, and I truly believe that. It's
yeah.
astounding to me. Every day, it's a big joke because I get goosebumps all the time whenever anything really good and big happens. And so I'll say, "I got goosebumps," and they're like, "Check it off for the day," because it's a true daily occurrence for
Yeah.
me watching these things happen and knowing that I may not have been the exact impetus for that thing, but that the business that I've built was.
Yeah.
Like, they know each other because of the business that I built. And I'm so darn proud of Aught. Like, she's her own avatar. And I'm so proud of everything that she has done and the change and impact that she's made in the world.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, okay, so now that we've got a little bit of context set here, I'm going to switch gears just a little bit, and I'm going to reiterate the question for the benefit of our listeners. So, Erica, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons who completely changed the course of your life or your
Yeah.
business?
Yeah, see, reference back about 10 minutes.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I'm gonna go back. So I saw Jade speak in the summer of 2019.
Okay.
In the summer of 2018, so a year prior to that, I was president of the Tennessee chapter of Meeting Professionals International. We are one of the largest chapters globally. We had a big name speaker, Judy Holler, coming in to speak at the first meeting I was president at. And I, to this day, don't know why I got brave enough to do it because she's a big name. I sent her an email and said, "I'm so excited you're coming to speak. I'm the president of the chapter. I'll be introducing you. Can we grab dinner?" And she will tell you on the flip side, she still has no idea why she said yes because she said, you go into a speaking thing and you want to be focused and whatnot. And so I don't oftentimes say yes to those kinds of invitations, but she did. And we went to dinner with our now mutual friend Des. We were having sushi, and it was one of those dinners where we left, and Judy actually took several videos of us afterwards being like, "What just happened in there? Our minds are blown, like the world is going to be different now." And we didn't know that going into the dinner, but the conversation at the table was just, it opened my brain to things I had not been thinking of. And what I mean by that is she was writing a book at that time, which has now become a very best-selling, a lot of best-selling books. And she said to me, what are you interested in? And I don't know why, because to this day, I had never thought this, but out of my mouth just came supporting female entrepreneurs. And I was like, what the heck was that? I don't know. I don't know why I just said that. So I always say that was the seed that got planted, was at that dinner. And Judy continued to mentor and support me. And then Jade said her purpose statement from the stage, and that watered that seed. And then I came back to Knoxville and I thought, I've got this idea. What am I going to do? And they've got a program through our Entrepreneur Center here. And the woman who facilitated that program for 9 weeks, her name is Booth Andrews, also an entrepreneur. She's a lawyer by trade. And I went into that program thinking, I'm just going to use this program to like make my meetings business better. And maybe I'll here's some things about this co-working idea that I have. And by the end of the 9 weeks, I had signed a 3-year lease on building and was ready to open it. And all of that to say now that not only are those women friends and mentors and have continued to make a huge impact in my life, but Booth herself had a room named after her at our first co-working facility and now sits in an office on the other side of this wall and has her business running out
Yeah.
of this space as
Wow.
well. See, more goosebumps. That's what happens. And I think all of those women are amazing in their own right, and they have impacted more people individually than could ever possibly be counted. But what's really mattered for me is that they were invested in the idea and they supported me in bringing it forward. So it wasn't just a one-time thing. They each did one thing that made a big, big difference. But then for them to lean in on the idea of continuing to support. And I think that is where women get left behind a little bit. I work in female dominant spaces, and I think we are not taught to take support. So we don't ask for it. And then we also are generally taught that supporting another woman can be detrimental to yourself. And so there are a lot of things about this world that I am out here trying to change. And that is one of them, that helping others never hurt you,
Yeah.
collaboration over competition
Yeah.
every time.
Yeah. It's interesting. I know for me, for most of my life, up until 12 years ago, I've been this really giving, generous person my whole life. But for most of my life, I totally sucked when it came to receiving or God
Yeah.
forbid, asking for what I really
What you
wanted,
needed. Yep.
because I didn't want to bother people. I didn't want to inconvenience them or what have you. And a friend of mine 12 years ago shared some different perspective with me, and it totally shifted things. And so not only have I been just on this journey to see how much I can expand my own receiving muscle, help a lot of other entrepreneurs do the same thing, because you mentioned something about that, I don't know how you said it, but the way you said it, it made me think about how I used to, when I would be in a room with other entrepreneurs. I mean, I can remember distinctly joining this mastermind group called Genius Network back in 2008. And the very first meeting I went to, there was probably about 35 entrepreneurs in that room, and it was a 2-day meeting. And on the first day of that, by the end of that first day, they had all shared so much stuff about what they were doing in their businesses and this and that, that I thought, man, they're doing all this. They're all way up here, and here's
Yeah.
me wondering, man, I don't even belong here because I haven't done anything near what these people have done,
Yeah.
and and I kind of would put those people on a pedestal
Yeah.
because of looking at their accomplishments and stuff. But now, what I've come to realize is that it doesn't matter how successful somebody is. It doesn't matter how great things look from the outside looking in, that we're all doing the best we can with what we have.
Yep.
And what I have figured out in doing what I do is that the really successful entrepreneurs that we look at and we might put on a pedestal, the reality is that the more successful someone gets, the smaller their circle becomes of people that they
Yeah.
can truly trust
Yeah.
and confide in
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I just have so much empathy for those entrepreneurs. I've been blessed that I've got to have conversations with so many of them over the years. And when I hear about some of the stuff they're going through, I just have so much empathy for them. And I'm just like, man, I just want to help them. I
Yeah.
just
Well, and I say this a lot. I feel like the path of entrepreneurship has the same stops for the most part for a lot of people. It's the journey that is different for everybody. And I really feel like those of us that may be farther down the path have a responsibility to help support and teach people who are behind us on the path. And I also feel like you have, as an entrepreneur, the responsibility to learn from the people who are in front of you
Yep.
also, right? You
Yep.
don't know what you don't know. And so if you don't ask somebody, what do I not know? Then how are you ever going to learn that?
Yeah.
And also, how is the idea of entrepreneurship going to survive if those of us that are currently in it are not helping bring the idea of it to people who are, I'm going to say younger, but
Yeah.
have not been in it as
Yeah.
long, right?
Yeah.
Whose businesses are younger
Yeah.
than our current businesses. And, the phrase "a rising tide lifts all ships" has been probably 12 times in the last 72 hours has been said to me. And I love the idea of that. And with, small businesses are suffering right now. They just are. I've not had a single conversation in the last 2 months that has been like everything is great and no difficulties at all, right? Like it's just not how it is. And the more we can support each other and or support businesses ourselves, entrepreneurs ourselves, the better chance that those businesses are going to survive
Yeah.
to continue on. So yeah, I feel a lot of responsibility in the world. I'm not real sure where it comes from, but um, I wake up every day excited to take on whatever that responsibility is and like what small piece of impact I can have, knowing that I will likely never see the outcome of it, but that hopefully the small crack that I've made in something will eventually, generations on, make things more positive for the world
Yeah.
after. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, Erica, I just want to just thank you for taking the time to have this conversation today and just share from your heart and stuff. And for anybody that's like listening to this right now, going, man, Kevin, I really love Erica. I love who she is. I love how she shows up. And in case they want to get in touch with you, what any websites, any resources that we can
Yeah.
share with them?
Absolutely. So we have everything on social and online under We Are Aught. I think you've got
Okay.
that. I'll let
Yes.
you guys, so nobody has to learn how to spell it. So we've got that website and all of those social handles, and then everything else is under Erika Biddix.
Okay.
So again, not going to try to spell that for you guys. If they are looking to be in community that is more than about the income, if they're looking to be in community to talk about their impact or the challenges of entrepreneurship, I would love for them to check out Aught. If they are someone who is launching a business or has a big pivot or maybe wants to bring something new to market, I do work one-on-one with female entrepreneurs. And anyone that I work with one-on-one also is a member of the Aught community. That's a piece of that program.
Okay.
So they always have that supportive community, but they also have me kind of in their pocket. We call it a fractional strategy officer, a
Okay.
CSO, basically. So if they're looking to do something in a contained way, so again, launch something new, we do a 6-month program where I work one-on-one with
Okay.
them. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Erica, any last thing you feel led to share before we call it a wrap?
I love telling Ott's story. And I realize Ott is not the only business that I have, but I love telling the story of doing entrepreneurship differently. I think I told you this. My like big, bucket list for Ott is to have her story told on Oprah's magazine, on the Today Show, or on Jen Hatmaker's podcast. Like I just want her story told there. And what I mean by that is I want people to know that there's a way to do entrepreneurship differently than we've been taught. And so that's what I just want to leave people with is if they're feeling like this does not feel good, or this is too hard, or this is not what, Instagram told me it was going to be like, there are changes that you can make and
Yeah.
you should. You have the responsibility to yourself and to your family and to your business to make those changes. So
Yeah.
that's what I would like to say.
Amen. Amen. I will tell you, we get taught all this stuff as an entrepreneur. I mean, I remember, early on, find a niche and fill a need and
Yep.
all that. And it became more about that. And that's still, really that, I mean, in some ways that's good advice. But also it causes people to just look more for like, well, what solutions and problems need fixing that I might be able to fix and stuff,
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of
versus,
advice. It doesn't make it, it's not bad advice. It
yeah,
just may not be advice that is going to work for you. And I
yeah,
think that's the important
yeah,
thing is
yeah,
that the DNA of whatever your business is like no other business out
that's
there,
right.
which
That's
means that any cookie cutter or any advice is going to be received by your business differently than any other business out there.
absolutely. Yeah. And when we just are in alignment with who we are and how we want to show up in the world and just be able to use our God-given gifts and unique abilities. And when we find out who that, because that's the other piece, it's our God-given gifts and unique abilities coupled with the people that we're most valuable to in
Yep.
in solving those problems with our
Yep.
gifts,
Yep.
and when we get that alignment and that alignment where there's trust in both character and competence, and where there's alignment of values and interests, that is the sweet spot right
Yep.
there. And it is
Absolutely.
so easy to do business and accomplish big things from that place.
Love a good Venn diagram.
Yeah. and uh and so, well, once again, Erica, I want to thank you so
Thank
much for
you,
taking the
Kevin.
time
Thank
to
you.
have this conversation today. Really appreciate it and really appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
You bet.